Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. I am TJ Jackson, and with me I have Taj Jackson.
What's going on, T?
What's going on, Taj? I've you know what's so funny? When I do that intro, I look at you and I see my older brother as a kid just watching it. It's like inside jokes. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else will get that inside joke, but it's something I think from a younger brother to a. That's why I keep smiling when I do it. I look at their faces, Taj and Terrell's.
Oh, no.
But this is part two, Taj. This is part two of our Power of Love show, where we're doing live Q&A, where we're going to answer questions that our community has in terms of grief, loss. There was many different types of questions, but there were so many great questions. We decided to make sure we stay on topic and make sure it's related to what the foundation's about, which is dealing with loss and picking yourself back up. So before we get going on the second set of questions and we finish up these questions, I would like to share to you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, leave your questions. We can see any comments you're making on either Facebook or YouTube. So we encourage you to ask questions. Just because we have a set of questions we want to get to does not mean you can't ask a question and we can't get to yours. Taj, anything else you want to add or share before we get going?
No, not really. I had back spasms yesterday. My back just was hurting so bad. You've had them in the past, right? Though
you know what's so crazy? I feel like my back's gotten better in the last couple of years.
But you used to have bad back.
Oh, they're horrible. They're horrible.
I had a bad
I've had them since I could honestly remember. I think since I was a teen. And they say it was because I'm flat-footed, that I played a lot of sports, that there was a lot of yanking. At least that was one theory that actually made a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really since COVID, I haven't been as active. So maybe that's why my back hasn't been hurting. But
so I have bad posture when I sit. So I think I've been sitting a lot and it caught up to me, like even sleeping wise, like it hurt. So
it's no fun. I'm telling you. Well, what you were supposed to say when I asked anything else, you were supposed to talk about our disclaimer to remind everyone. We are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've learned from it. We've been impacted by it, and we've learned from it. And we want to share our opinions in an attempt to help you overcome whatever it is you are going through. Saying that if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Do not just rely on us. So with that said, Taj, are you ready to jump into these questions?
Yeah,
there's a lot of great questions, and there's some questions that I don't even know how you're going to answer. So are you ready?
Yes, of course.
All right, let's start with Lena. She asked, if you see or hear something that reminds you of someone you know that passed away, how do you make yourself happy again?
I think basically
did we didn't answer this one, did we?
I thought we answered something similar to that. If it wasn't that,
well, let's answer it again.
I mean, I'll say the exact same thing I pretty much said last time, which is basically remember the good times. Remember, the fun stuff in terms of if it's something that reminds you, try and counter it with something fun, a good memory. If it's something that you saw a movie with someone. I mean, I used to see the Halloween movies with mom all the time. You wouldn't think that, that was like one of the things that I just really cherished. And when the new Halloween had come out, if there was like kind of a sad feeling to that, but then I kind of changed that around. I'm like, and it made me feel happy, in a way that it's like, because I still felt like mom was there. It's just, it was a quick, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of sadness while I was watching it that I'm like, kind of got myself out of it. But it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be, I mean, you have to also give yourself permission to feel sad. And when something reminds you about something. I just recently saw some footage of us and Uncle Michael And it normally never affects me. You know, if anything, it always puts a smile on my face. For some reason, because it was around his, you know, the 25th, it kind of affected me a little more. It made me kind of like, I don't know. It was just sad. It was sad to me in that way, because I couldn't even finish watching it.
You know, and Taj, what I liked about your response is a couple things. Number one, there's no roadmap. There's no proper way to feel, and I like the fact that you would say normally, you know, you're it doesn't really affect you, but this time it did. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. There's not a set way you're supposed to react and supposed to feel. I could probably say, you know, even things like the Little Rascals or the Three Stooges, there may be times where I may walk past it or hear it, or someone will ask questions and I'll be okay. But there may be some times where I may be down because it does remind me of my Uncle Michael. As for Mom, it's the same thing with music. Gloria Estefan and, you know, all Expose and all those great songs from the 80s and early 90s reminds me so much of my mother. So it all depends, you know, it all depends. And the thing I think is important to remember is that there's no set way you're supposed to feel. You just have to do your best to, you know, always think of that person as in the best way you can, but it's never going to be guaranteed that that experience isn't going to be fulfilling or enjoyable, if that makes sense. All right, Taj, this is more for you too, because you are the one that really took the reins on this. So Bailey wants to know, what inspired you to create this beautiful organization?
We've all, you know, the three of us have always wanted to do something for Mom. You know, I mean, when she passed, we dedicated the album to her, and you know, there's always things that we constantly want to be reminded of in that way. And I've always said, you know, when you start missing someone, do something in honor of them. And you know, the little league is named after her, a field, I should say. And it's just like, I saw what that meant to me and what that meant to us in terms of the TJ Jackson field. You know, it means a lot. And I always thought, oh, you know, well, Mom always was about giving. Mom was always about, you know, she went way far, and you know, to grabbing stuff for auctions, and you know, she had no shame of asking who, you know. I wish we had a little more of that.
Exactly.
You know, my mama asked whoever, she was like, you know, point me in the right direction, I'll ask them. And she would come up with these great gifts, and then they would go for a lot of money, and she would raise a lot of money for charities because of that. But I don't know, just Mom and charity always you know, was hand in hand. And it was just something that, as we get older, as you know, TJ, it's like, not that your memories fade of her, but at the same time, it's been longer and longer that she's not been alive. And so this is one way of keeping her memory alive and her alive.
Yeah, I agree, Taj. I think the best part, like you said, with Mom, she was all about charity and community and giving back and making her community, really her local community. I mean, everywhere, but especially when it came to her boys with school and baseball. And like you said, the best thing for me is not only what I learn and being able to help others, but it's also the idea that it's a sweet way to pay homage to Mom and to make her little legacy have more stability, if that makes sense, or more awareness, because this is what she believed in. She believed in helping people and just being able to do this. And again, it's not just us. It's just not us three boys. It's also the whole. There's a lot of people. We had a great board meeting just 3 days ago on Sunday with a bunch of people who are trying to do the best thing for everyone, to give back. And we're just blessed. We're really happy to do this, and to see all of you in the community enjoy it and get something from it is I can pretty much assure my mother smiling down with everything that's happening. Okay, so this is a question from the Weird that, you know, the Weird always has great questions. So I love it. After your mother's passing, did you prefer to be alone or surrounded by people?
You know, it's interesting because I preferred to be surrounded by people. You know, It was, but that's just normally how I am with anything in terms of if I'm going through something. I don't like being alone. Sometimes I be alone just because I don't want to bother other people with my problems, which I've learned that's not a good, you learn through this. It's not a good way of dealing with things, but I like always being with people. It's just because you share grief, but you also, there's happiness, there's jokes and stuff like that, and smiles, and it makes it better. What would you say, T?
Taj, it's funny you say that because I thought you would say that you like to be surrounded by people, but I actually prefer to be alone.
Really?
Yeah, I like to have, like I said, one of the most important living things that was with me at that time was my dog, was Yabo, and honestly, I'm just kind of one of those who I don't know what it is. And again, I love this because it just shows there's no proper way. There's no routine set. And I think, I remember when after mom passed, we went to Havenhurst and there was like that little gathering, that was,
Yeah.
and here's the thing. I don't know if people know, but a lot of our family and friends came. Do you know how long it was after mom passed? Was it just a couple days?
It's all fuzzy, but I remember that, which is the crazy thing.
And, it was kind of like a not celebratory, but, I remember Uncle Michael was there trying to change the spirit and the vibe and bring happiness and laughter. And I don't know if that was something that was just him or if he was purposely trying to change the aura around us, and around the family. But that's something that sticks well to me. And I actually did enjoy that because I felt like it kind of changed the mentality I had at 16 that I will get through this. I always say Uncle Jermaine's hug, which was just hours after me finding out, was crucial. But that event was another big one. And I don't remember if it was a couple days later or
I don't remember
4 or 5 days.
Yeah, but
It's one I remember.
At Haven.
Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't think that's what you were supposed to do, but that really actually helped me a lot. So I think my instinct is to say alone, but at the same time, I guess being surrounded is also a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Sienna wants to petition Taj for a new seat for you because you're.
Yeah. We do need a new seat. I put a back thing on this chair, which I've always had, but I had it on the other chair, but I put on this chair, so I'm sitting a little more upright now, which is good. It's just I slouch naturally. That's the problem. So
Yeah.
even if I'm not on screen slouching, I'm downstairs on the couch slouching, and that's just, sooner or later your back is
I have something for you. I'll send you.
Yeah, is that what we talked about?
Yeah, it's solid. So
yeah,
I got just so. I mean, this is so off topic, but why not? I got a little posture thing that you could put on your back here, and it's supposed to buzz you, like those things that buzz you when you're not doing right. So
not shocky, just buzzy, right?
But I used it for like 4 or 5 days, and it was I felt good. I felt like So maybe I'll
go through it but yeah, you said that.
Maybe for your birthday, I'll get that for you or something, if you're a good kid.
Yeah.
Okay, AIM wants to know, what is your biggest failure?
Biggest failure? It's interesting because I don't really think of failure as failure anymore. Like failure to me used to be, it's like finite, and I don't think there's anything that's finite in my life right now that I can't change in terms of what I'm going after. I think a failure only happens when you stop pursuing it or stop doing what you were out to do in that way. So things that I'm not yet happy with, it's like, my directing career and all that stuff, but I would not consider it a failure because I have a lot to do.
Yeah. I don't want it to make it seem like I'm trying to dodge a question, because I really can't articulate.
You don't have a failure? Is that what you
I can't really articulate a failure. And I think, like you said,
brought up that way though. That's what I think in terms of positive thinking. We weren't brought up in terms of thinking of things as failures, but just roadblocks. I think that's the thing.
And exactly, Taj. And I've maybe, like you said, we were brought up that way to see failure. One of the best things I learned from Uncle Michael as a kid was with every failure, there's an equivalent seed of benefit. I don't know. You'll know from Napoleon Hill.
And you can learn from failure, which is what I always try to do, no matter what. It's a lesson.
Yeah. So sometimes you learn the most and you can grow the most from your failure. So I think the important thing is to kind of change your mentality and your perspective on a failure.
Now we've had big hiccups though. Like, I mean, let's not pretend, like, especially with 3T, we've had big hiccups. So we're not saying we've not had some things that other people would deem as failures. It's just for us, we're always a constant moving target. We're not looking back and going, wow, that's a failure to us.
Professional and personally, there's been several instances where I've, haven't maintained the cool I'd want to, and that is to me failing, and that's something that I'm learning more and more and trying to grow and trying to improve on. So there's definitely, and I think you have to be real with yourself and realize that you're going to keep making mistakes, and the trick is to try to learn from them.
Yeah. And that they're normal to make mistakes.
Yeah. So Channel wants to know, have you ever had a family member that wasn't supportive dealing with grief?
Well, the thing is that I think everyone deals with it differently. I think when you're saying not supportive, were they just ignorant about it, or were they kind of standoffish, like they didn't know how to deal with it? Because we have to make that distinction. Sometimes family doesn't know, they're dealing with their own grief, or they don't know how to approach you and deal with it, and deal with, and I guess make you feel better. So they kind of step back in a way, which I've done with friends that I learned not to do, because from this show and all that stuff, I used to just leave it like, not even like check in a lot, just be like, oh, they don't need me around because I'm just another person that's bothering them. And that was the way earlier me, because in some way with mom, even though our friends were there for us, we were still like dealing with it and processing it and all that stuff. And so it is hard. You don't know what your emotions are telling you to do. Have you, TJ, had a family?
Todd, I think also we have to be, I truly feel every family member has been supportive and trying to be supportive. And I mentioned this last week. I kind of can blame myself for not dealing with it the right way. And I think we just have to be forgiving that it's hard for us to understand what's going on, but it's also hard for extended family members and friends to know, not only understand, but to grieve and to understand how to help you. There's a lot of variables that can make it feel unsupportive. Has there ever been a family member that said, just get over it? Absolutely not. But in terms of, there's been family members that maybe haven't reached out, but that doesn't mean they're not being supportive. They just may not know, and I've been guilty on the other side. So I think it's kind of how you have to see being supportive. Taj, Casey wants to know, what's your advice for people who are afraid to allow people to see their true self, to not have their guard up so high all of the time?
It's interesting. I think that when you allow people to see yourself, that's when you shine. I think we're all unique and we're all different. And if you try and I'm not saying you are, Casey, but I'm saying when you try and fit in, you kind of lose your shine. And I do think that by just being yourself, you'll attract people that are like you, or that want to be like you, or like you in terms of are friends with you in that way. I've been fortunate enough to attract friends that are very similar to me in certain ways and have the same kind of beliefs, because I've always been myself in that way. And none of us have changed, for better or worse. We're the same people that we were in high school, but because I opened up and I let people see me, and vice versa. So it all depends. I mean, the problem is society deems you a certain way, and you should be this, or you should look like this, or you should, I don't subscribe to any of that in general anyway. So I try and be myself, and because I think that's where everyone shines, is when they're themselves. There's kind of an honest truth to it, but also a glow to you when you're yourself.
And I think it's freeing if you can get that mentality and get that non-caring vibe. It's freeing for you, and I truly feel that how you see yourself and you see your worth, and if you can accept yourself, that is one of the single most important. I shouldn't say one of the single most, but one of the most important things you can do in life for yourself and for your confidence, for every aspect of your life. And as long as you and your loved ones, you feel you're representing them right, then I think everyone else can deal with it, to be honest. And to go back, I saw this, and I hope I'm not singling you out, Jen, but after my grandmother died when I was a teen, I went into a deep depression, and I have family members tell me to get over it because other people had it worse. That's tough.
That's really tough.
That's tough, and again, I don't know your family. And I know you're not alone with this, Jen. And I appreciate you and commend you for saying this, because I'm sure your other people are feeling similar ways. I think we don't. I don't want to say blame it, but I think it's an issue of society. Again, there's not enough talking about loss and dealing with grief and death, so we don't know how to handle it as a whole. We don't know. I truly feel your family members care about you. They're just trying to do what they think is the best thing for you, which is to toughen you up. And that's kind of an older school way of thinking of things and of handling things. And it's important that we do let ourselves grieve, and we let ourselves, our emotions come out, and the way we feel come out. So I think in time that's going to get better, but we're still in that funky period where we're learning more about this. And I'm hoping things like our show and there's a lot of other great sources that are trying to bring this out, that it's okay to feel bad, and it's okay to struggle. Yes, we don't want to live that way our entire lives, but sometimes that's the method or the road to get through and to navigate through this new life, is to struggle for a bit. So that would be my response, Jen. But I commend you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Julian wants to know, Taj, are you proud of what you have achieved in life?
I am. I used to not be, actually. That's why I paused for a second.
What changed? What changed that?
Forced change, basically. Not being happy. We did 3T. Everything was great. We were doing great stuff, but I never was happy because I never thought we had achieved what we should have achieved. So there was this moving goal that I felt we were not even close to where we need to be. And then losing it all, almost, basically having your second album kind of stolen or away from you. I went through like a bad period of close to depression, just sadness, because I identified so much with 3T in that way. And then I really had to kind of find a way to love myself again, in terms of being like, you know what, 3T's a great part of me, but it's not the part of me, And so I kind of had to rebuild myself up. And then going off of what TJ, you said in terms of people, I met someone when I wasn't 3T, kind of, in a way, and letting my real self be seen as opposed to whatever. And that helped too, because then it gave me the confidence of like, oh, it's not just 3T that when people gravitate towards me in that way. And so it's a process and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's now with Taylor and my wife and everything like that, like now I'm happy because I know that gratitude, which is one of the things we learned, when you start practicing gratitude, you start realizing how much you should be happy for in that way. And so I don't take anything for granted now. And for the last 20 years, I haven't really, maybe 15 years, I haven't taken anything for granted. I've been very appreciative of what I have in life. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot more I want to achieve, but at the same time, I look around and I'm very happy of what I have achieved.
Yeah, I think it's something that happens with maturity and time. I can kind of corroborate what you're saying, that when you're younger, at least for me, it was tougher. I don't know if it's age related or just understanding the dynamics of perfectionism and the issues with perfectionism and being real about that. I don't know if it's just being able to have a stronger, more healthy grasp on that that's helped. But yes, when I was younger, I was harder on what I achieved. I didn't feel like I was achieving much. And it's been like lately that I felt like now I'm achieving, I feel like I've achieved things in life. So again, I think it's one of those things. It's kind of, again, how you grow up. I think you're always battling yourself on where you're quote unquote supposed to be in life. And I think that's it's a dangerous mentality to have. We have to always want the best and work to be the best we can, but we have to be able to step back and really reflect and really, pat ourselves on the backs, even if we fall short. Because again, back to earlier what we were saying, I truly feel failure and losing is a great benefit, can be a great benefit in life. It's just how we accept it and what we choose to learn from it. So if you have that mentality, you'll see that you're achieving a lot because you're growing. And I think that's what we all want, is to just continue to grow.
And don't compare yourself to anyone else. I think that was the big thing.
Very true.
Once I stopped comparing to like I should be here or there, you're on your own path and you're on your own journey. And the only one you should compare yourself to is you in that way, and what you can achieve.
Nice.
There's another one real quick that I want to do before we go. Someone said, is it okay to feel numb after any death? And
let me find that.
It was Jomi Jones.
Okay, so I got you. So Jomi Jones asked, is it okay to feel numb after any death?
I've gone through that. That's why I wanted to highlight that. I do feel numb. Like, I mean, after mom passed, I always say there's like a scale of 1 to 10, and losing a parent is like number 10. To me it was, in terms of like, that was the worst thing that could possibly happen in my life. A sibling or a parent. Once that happened, everything else has been a sliding scale, to the point where it's just you become numb to it. You try not to, because in some way you feel by being numb you're not being human in some way. But I am more numb than I used to be in terms of death in general. So many people have died around me that I've cared about, that now I'm just like, I'm there for people, but at the same time, I can't connect like I used to.
Do you think that's simply related to the amount of death that has come?
It started with mom, because that mom was like, I think mom, you kind of, I went through so long of just being not a funk, but just in terms of like numb in a way, that I never really healed completely. It's like an injury. You don't, sometimes you don't heal completely from that injury, and that's what happened. So now, everything else is relevant to that in that way. And so I sympathize with people so much, and I know what that hurt is, but at the same time, it's like, because I have this protective shield in terms of scared someone else is going to pass away that's close to me. We've lost so many close friends, that we've cared about in that way. And it's just like, it just, each one adds to the other, and then you become more and more numb,
Yeah. I think it's also important, Taj, to share that we can't, and I'm not saying this is what's happening, Jomi or anyone out there, but sometimes when we get an understanding or experience dealing with death, our reactions and our responses may be different and may appear to be numb. Or, if I've lost, I've lost friends, I've lost a mother, I've lost an amazing uncle. So if I lose another important family member, it's still going to crush me, but I may not be that wreck I was at 16. And it may be simply because I've learned how to deal with it. I've learned where to go. I've learned, maybe not completely, but I've had better understanding of everything. And maybe that's kind of disguising itself as being numb, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, Taj?
To me, it does.
Okay, cool. All right. So Lala Chan Network says, I just turned 40 years old 2 days ago. Happy birthday, Lala. First of all, let me share this. I love it when women can proudly share their age. It's a beautiful thing. So anyway, she says, I just turned 40 years old 2 days ago. What do you have for a person who just turned 40 years old? If so, why?
I would say, I consider 40 still young. I mean, my body's telling me different, but in terms of my mind, and I feel like there's so much, and there's so much wisdom behind age in a way. And so there's so much that I want to do. And I think you're at a great prime age right now where there's a lot you've witnessed, there's a lot you have personal experience, but you still have that youth to drive it forward, in that way. So there's not much you can't do at 40. And I think I've always studied people that started late in life, with some of our greatest creations and inventions / actors, actresses started late.
Yeah. I think I truly feel your 40s is the best decade. And what's so interesting? When I get into 50s, I may be saying the 50s are, but there's something about the stability you gain mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that I think offsets and surpasses any deficiencies you may experience physically. I truly believe that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can't, we were just talking about back pain, even though mine's better. I'm nowhere near in the physical health I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not nowhere near. I may be closer than I may be saying, but the truth of the matter is I'm not there. So I think I've already hit that peak, but mentally and spiritually, emotionally, I'm still growing, and that definitely surpasses it. So embrace it, enjoy it. And I feel that if you're around the right people, you're going to be happier than ever during this decade and going forward.
And I think that there's no age where, like, the thing for me is that as long as you're willing to still learn and be flexible in life, I think as you get older, sometimes you get stuck in your ways, and that's dangerous no matter what it is. In terms of just because you stop growing, you just start wanting people that are around that agree with you. And I'm always trying to learn and always trying to understand things. So 40 is in that time where it's like you've learned a lot, but at the same time, you still can be flexible enough. But these are just guesses. I mean, I know that I know 50-year-olds that are very flexible in that way, in terms of, like, trying to hear every side. And then I know 50-year-olds that are very stubborn, in their ways and they were in their 40s and 30s and stuff like that. So I'm just making a generalization, but I do feel like you're at the middle where you can just, kind of go and be flexible.
Paul wants to know, what do you do when you feel worthless and like giving up?
You connect with something. That's what I've always done in the past, whether it's in music. You find something. Nature is a very important one. But you have to, it's called grounding yourself. You have to reground yourself in a way where, and that's funny coming from me, because, TJ knows I don't go out much at all. But, even like, we have bunnies that come around and all that stuff. Anything nature wise, it's really important to me in that way. We've gotten plants and stuff like that. But I find stuff that I used to connect with, like music. And that's why when I went through my depression at one point, I listened to, like, all the 70s music that, like, reconnected me to happier times. That maybe I heard mom or dad playing in the, at Pettit, and, like, oh, and it just brought a smile to me. And then it makes me feel like I still got a lot to do.
Paul, I would say my biggest two pieces of advice would be to find a community. And this is one thing I love about I respect about Facebook. You can find a community with whatever you want. If you're into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you can find a group and a community of that. Mm-hmm. And not only will you be around more like-minded people, but you'll be talking about a subject that brings you joy. And I think those little, life instances of experiencing that joy will compound and make you a happier person. That could help. And then the other one that is something that I think is also even more important is to make sure you're practicing gratitude. Because we are all so blessed to just be here, and to be able to see and to talk and to read and write. And sometimes, we all take that for granted, and we forget. I think it's so we fall into a trap of comparing ourselves to others and our surroundings that we really forget when we step back. We are so lucky, and I think practicing gratitude more will help us remember that and help us feel more worthy, actually. And it's a true thing. There's many people in situations that aren't economically strong or whatever that are very full of life and feel great. And it's because, in my opinion, they have a strong sense of what really matters, and that's what they're valuing. So that would be my other big advice, is to find a community, whether that's Facebook or, in real life or another platform, that and practicing gratitude.
I think also, yeah, when you say feel worthless, that it's who you're comparing it to. And I was saying earlier, don't compare it to anyone but yourself. And I do truly believe everyone was put on this earth for a reason, for a purpose. And you will find yours if you don't give up. That's the thing. I had to refine my purpose at one point. And then once I found it, I felt better about it. And I was like, okay, that's what I was supposed to be doing. And it's not sometimes it's not what you think you're supposed to be doing. So I would just say definitely, and just give yourself permission to find people like that can help you in that way. Camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
When you say sometimes you feel worthless or giving up because you're alone, and maybe it's self-isolation where you've pushed people away, but that is also your mind playing tricks on you to do that in a way. So you have to open up again and let people in.
Great question, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, Katia wants to know what was most helpful for you at a young age when your parents divorced. I've made it no secret that when my parents divorced, it was definitely the most difficult thing I've experienced up to my mother's death.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still something, I mean, just now I'm able to deal with it, but it was a huge, difficult moment for me. And I think I don't know, Taj. Give me a second to figure out what was most helpful for me. I think just having brothers and having people to share the experience with. I truly feel if it was just me and alone, it would be a different story even for me. And I think we as parents, if we're going to go the divorce route, we have to be very respectful and very understanding of what kind of pain our kids have. Like I said, that was so devastating for me. And it was a big reason why I never wanted to get married. I didn't want to put any of my kids through that kind of pain. That's how painful the divorce was for me. So that would be my answer.
I think also, I mean, not in a good way, but it is becoming more common, people getting divorced and parents getting divorced. So it's not something that was so taboo than it was back in the day where, most parents, when we were around, TJ, when we were younger, were still together.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's divorce has become something that it's more common. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard. Would I have wanted mom or dad to be more upfront with us? I don't know if that would have helped or hurt, like, because that didn't happen to us, in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, they let us know what was happening, but at the same time, well, I remember mainly mom assuring us that it's not changing anything. Like she kept saying that this is not going to change your relationship with your father, but it did, and it changed everything. It's not going to change I think going to the same school helped. Like we didn't have to go and move to another school, but we moved houses and stuff, and that changed. So there was a lot that did change in our life that was kind of, I mean, it affected us.
Taj, does seeing someone crying in front of you make you feel uncomfortable?
Yes, it does. Yeah. I crying in general, like I feel the pain, so it makes me feel not uncomfortable. It makes me feel sad. I guess if making me feel sad is uncomfortable, Because then I want to know why, even strangers, I want to know why they're crying and what happened. I have this belief I can help everyone, but I can't, but I feel that way. Like, I want to know why they're crying and if I can help, but then you don't want to be that weird stranger that, that goes up to people. But it's that thing. Like, crying is, one of those things it's super, that affects me. Yeah. In a certain way. Yeah. What about you?
Yes, but not in the negative way. My heart immediately wants to understand what's wrong, and I do want to help.
Yeah, you want to fix it.
Want to fix it, but it's tough because it also depends on who is crying. If it's a stranger, and JoJo's. If there's a stranger crying, she's going to go up to the stranger and hug them and try to figure it out. Whereas Dee may not, may say, oh, that's really sad, but, she wouldn't go and approach. So again, it comes to different people's responses to how to deal with it. But yes, it makes me uncomfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean I know what to do or to say on how to fix that. But I think the most important thing is you just have to be there for each other, and you have to support someone the way you can, the way that's authentic to you. But feeling uncomfortable, I think it's a normal feeling if you have empathy or sympathy.
I will say this: don't hold in your cry because you don't want someone to feel uncomfortable around you. Like, that's the thing too. Like, if you feel like crying, you should cry. I'm doing the flip side of that. Where you're like, you don't want to look weird. Like Terrell, every time he cries, he's like, I'm sorry. He apologizes to people around him. I'm like, what are you apologizing for?
Yeah. Where does that come from?
Exactly that. Worrying that it looks that's making people uncomfortable in that. But it's like, I wish I had the opposite. I wish I could cry more freely,
Yeah. Yeah. Carlos asked, lately I've been dreaming a lot of a loved one who passed away. Do you believe that's a good thing or a bad thing? Love this question.
If you're dreaming about, I always think it's a good thing.
Why is it a good thing?
It's not a nightmare, right?
Let's assume it's not a nightmare.
Yeah, then it's all. I always welcome dreams where it's like Uncle Michael or Mom or someone that we've lost, or in that way that, it's, I know it's not real after you wake up and stuff like that, but I still feel like I got that that happiness for that short period of time in my brain.
Yeah, I think you're right, Taj. I think it's a good thing as long as the dream is a positive dream. I think it's a good thing. That's one thing that it could be our way of connecting with that person. It could be our way, the human way of remembering that person, or that person playing a role in our real life at some point. If I had a lot of dreams about Mom for a week, and then something in real life came about, I may think, what would Mom do? So I think, again, it's kind of your perspective. And as long as it's a positive dream, I think it's a great thing to dream about your loved ones. I don't think there's anything wrong about it. Okay, we'll do 2 more.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's so many good questions.
There are good questions. There always is, though.
I'm sorry, Taj. I should have been more prepared for these questions. But let me do this one because there's so many good ones. I want to hit them all. Okay, so Denica, am I saying that name right? Denica, you know this name.
I do know this name. That's why I'm not saying it, because I don't.
Okay, I know I did this in my last live with you, Denica. So I'm gonna go back to D. So D asks, is there still music therapy funded by the DDJF? Can you tell us about it? Yes, and yes, there is. What's been
doing it remotely right now?
I'm sorry?
We're doing it remotely now.
Yes, because of COVID and all that's going on, we've been doing it remotely. We have a music therapist who's amazing, who's been with us since the beginning, who helped develop the program. It's been going nonstop. It's been going for those who need it, kids primarily. but it's a music therapy class that's teaching the kids how to write and how to get their emotions out. Because I think one of the biggest things is when kids are dealing with a struggle, when we all are dealing with the struggle, we tend to internalize it and try to protect ourselves and not let it get out. And we, as in 3T and my family, we've been blessed with the I don't want to say the ability, but the accepting of writing and creating. So we are just trying to, with DDJF Music Heals program, we try to make sure those that don't have that opportunity or don't understand or don't even know about the benefits of creating, forget about getting your song on a radio station. Just the idea of creating, having an outlet is very therapeutic. So yes, all we are 100% volunteer. No one is paid, and everything we bring in goes to programs like our music therapy program. And yes, they're still going on once a week. So it's been great.
And it's Dinica. People are saying
Dinica.
Dinica.
Yeah. Okay.
That's from
Taj. We'll end with this one. This is a good one to end with. Kalia says, if you can go back in time, what advice would you give yourself what advice would you give your past self about life, the future, careers, or other things? This has been a long one too, but you guys have had great questions, and there's still so many, but we have to wrap it, and we will have to do more of these live Q&As.
I'm going to give myself the advice that mom gave me about high school. Enjoy it, because it's going to go by fast. She said this way early. She's like, it's going to go by fast and you're going to miss it when it's gone. And I think that's what I would tell my young self, because I applied it in high school perfectly. I cherished every moment of high school, even though I hated waking up early, but I, with our friends and stuff every day, I saw my friends, it was like a blessing and stuff like that. But when it came to my career, I threw that out the window, and I didn't. I played it like a baseball game, basically. Winners and losers, and what did you hit? What average did you hit, and all that stuff, as opposed to, just enjoying it, enjoying the game, enjoying your career, and enjoying what you're doing. So I would tell my younger self, just don't be so hard on yourself, and just have fun, and enjoy life, and treat everyone, which is what I naturally do, but to treat everyone good. And
yeah, I would really suggest myself to practice more gratitude, and not that I wasn't grateful. I was worried that people may think I was a snobby, ungrateful kid. It's not that. I just think there's such power in really writing out what you are grateful for. I just think it changes everything, your perspective on life, your health. I truly do. I think that, and what Taj said, enjoy the present time, and that goes for us now. I think it's a great lesson we can take now. We have to enjoy the present time. And sometimes we get guilty of forgetting that and getting overwhelmed with work or other things, but we have to make sure we step away, enjoy the simple things in life, go on walks, go on nature journeys, and really experience the beautiful world that we are all blessed to be living in. So I would say those several things: gratitude, enjoy the present time, and enjoy the world, travel, see things. And that would be my advice. Cool. You good, Taj? We're ready to close?
Yes.
All right. Everyone, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's always been fun. This was great. So we're going to have to do more Q&As, probably once every 4 weeks, maybe something like that. I don't want to stick us to a schedule, Taj, but we had so many great questions. We thank you guys for contributing. And if you want to learn more about DDJF, you can go to www.ddjf.org. You can donate there. You can learn more. You can do many things there. So that's it for our show. We thank you guys for joining us. We hope you learned from us. We hope you've grown from us. Remember, we're not licensed therapists. We're not professionals. We've just experienced a lot, and we've gotten very comfortable sharing with everything that we've learned. So until next time, we will be back next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. But thank you guys again for all your support, and much love, and we are out.